All right, we are go for launch.
Good afternoon and what? Just playing, Becky.
You are messing with me, yes. And it works.
Good evening and welcome to the December 20th, 2023 Henrietta Town Board meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. I'd like to begin the meeting with a silent prayer, including to the family and friends of the victim of the shooting that occurred in Northeast Henrietta over the weekend. And then that will be followed by a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just an update for those who have not heard. There was an event at Trio Restaurant, excuse me, up in I don't remember what it's called now, but it used to one time be called Winton Place. And it was an outside organization that was renting the facility. There was trouble in the parking lot and an individual was shot. And unfortunately, she passed away from complications from the gunshot wound while she was at the hospital undergoing surgery. They have a couple suspects. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to get an update, but last I knew they had a couple suspects and leads they were following. But with her passing, it is being investigated as a murder investigation. The owners of the property terminated the lease for the restaurant. It was actually terminating as of December 31st. And apparently one of the people involved in the restaurant had decided to make some extra money before it went out by bringing in some of these outside events. And sadly, it had a tragic result. So, but it does not appear to be, in other words, that the early indications are that there was, how to put it, it wasn't a random event, that there was some potential connection between the assailant and the victim. But obviously, any loss of life like that is tragic. So, last I knew, they had not released the name of the victim. It is possible that name was released today, but again, I have not had a chance to get an update. It was released. Okay, thank you. So, after that said note, I will also just like to note that we invite the public to participate in discussions, typically on subjects, obviously out absolutely in any of the public hearings, but even on any motion in front of the board. We typically have the board provide response first, then we invite the public to comment. When commenting, we don't have a time limit, but please keep your comments concise. Do not constantly, repeat the same point over and over. Be polite, be respectful, observe the rules of decorum. And, if it's something that has to do with an individual, we do not have discussions, for instance, of personnel matters or stuff like that. If you need to talk to me about any actions of that matter, you can reach out to me directly, but we don't hold those discussions in public session. So with that said, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the preceding meeting?
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I make a motion to approve the minutes of our preceding town board meeting from December 6th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 26-427, 2023. Whereas Lisa S. Bolsner has been a member of the Henrietta Town Board since first being elected to the position for the term starting January 1st, 2020. And whereas while on the town board, Lisa has served as liaison to the library board, sustainability committee, historic site committee, and historical society. And whereas Lisa also served on the zoning board of appeals from her appointment on April 5th, 2017 until her election to the town board in 2020. And whereas during that time, Lisa has served the town with distinction and excellence, providing great insight and experience in the decision-making and helping make the town a better place. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board thanks Lisa Bolsner for her dedication and service to the town of Henrietta, and thanks Lisa's family for supporting her endeavors and commitment to the betterment of our community.
Second.
So, it's been a real pleasure, serving with you, Lisa. You know, she had the unenviable position when she first came on of being, the only member of one of the major parties, and all the other board members were of the other party. It's not easy for anyone to come in. You know, fortunately, this board has always been, community first. I don't even want to say party second. Parties much further down the line. But it still makes for a tough position. And she handled that exceptionally well. Her experience, as we said, whether it's real estate, people, just general skills have been great. Her enthusiasm for the library especially, she served most of her liaison positions enthusiastically, but especially the library. Really gonna miss you. I will note that Millie and Lisa were the 4th and 5th women on the town board. And, you know, unfortunately, we're gonna have a period where we have no women on the town board, which I don't think is a good position to be in. Preceding them, McGill, McCabe, and Zink, Janet Zink were the 3 women before them. Again, just want to say thank you, and I'm going to let others express their appreciation as well.
It's been just an entire pleasure to work with both of you, and it makes a lot of sense. The diversity of the board is very important, and you two took us to another level, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and we will miss you, and maybe you can run again someday. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, I just, obviously I want to echo everything that's been said here so far. Both of you have been a tremendous model for the rest of us to aspire to in terms of the commitment that you've made to the committees that you have served with, the fidelity with which you have brought the topics that are necessary for those committees to hear in front of us. And it's with some sadness that I will not get a chance to serve the next 2 years at least with you. But thank you so much.
Thank you. And Lisa, I just want to say I never had to worry about whether or not you were putting Henrietta first, the community first. I knew that was always your passion, was to think about what was going to be right for the neighbors and for the residents and for the employees here in the town of Henrietta. And I just really appreciated that passion that you brought here to the board.
Thank you. Can I talk now?
Absolutely.
Y'all know I like to do that, so. I just want to thank you Supervisor Schultz. You know, it was a tough position when I came on this board 4 years ago and I wasn't really sure how it would be received. And I have learned so much from you. You go above and beyond to learn and you go above and beyond to teach us. And I'm really, really grateful for the knowledge that I've gained by serving on this board. I love serving with you, Millie. It's, you know, it was nice sitting next to you and learning about each other and our families, and I really appreciate that. And, you know, of course, I was thrilled to have Rick and Joe join the board 2 years ago. I've always been a huge fan of Rick's, and Joe, I got to know you just before, and I just thought you'd be such a fabulous addition to the board, and you have been. The town, I can't even say enough about the town, the clerk's office. I mean, wow, how fortunate and lucky we are to have 4 such incredible clerks in the clerk's office. And I could go right down the road. CFO Linda, I mean, I've learned so much from you and you have just been such a blessing to me. Craig, and I know I'm going to forget people, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at all you people sitting out here. You guys have been amazing. Chris Martin, where's Chris? I thought I saw him out here. He's back there. Chris, you were always giving me information and helping me with whatever I needed. The rec department, I mean, wow, the things that our town does with the rec department, I don't think any other town does what we do. And yes, my passion was the library board. I was fortunate enough to serve on the committee for when the library was open and then to continue to represent the library. And just the boards that I represented were non-paying boards, the library board, the historical site committee, the sustainability committee. I hope we as a town realize how fortunate we are to have so many people volunteer their time. And they're not just volunteering their time to volunteer their time. The passion that these people have is incredible. And it's just been so inspiring to me to sit on these boards and just listen to these people. And I've learned so much, but I've also met so many amazing people that I consider family and friends. And, you know, I've lived in Henrietta since I was 2. I was raised here. My kids were raised here. I just love this town. And when I ran, that's what I said to everybody. I just love this town. I love representing it. And I'm sure I'll find other ways to represent it. And I just want to thank everybody. If I've missed you, I'm so sorry, because there's so many people that I have just loved working with, learning from, and doing all those things. So I'm really, really grateful to everybody. And I guess I'll stop there, but thank you very much.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to add anything? Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll call the roll, so I don't forget to actually pass the resolution. We'll get a picture. After we recognize Millie, I'd like to do a picture of the whole board.
Yeah.
As well. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Do I abstain? Do I vote? Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Oh, do we want to do Millie first? Oh, okay.
I want to do a picture
Oh, I'm sorry.
for individuals that.
Okay.
Millie, and then we're gonna do one with the whole board.
All right, well, I usually take. Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution number 26-428/2023. Whereas Millie C. Suffernick has been a member of the Henrietta Town Board since first being elected to the position for the term starting January 1, 2020. And whereas while on the town board, Millie served as liaison to the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, diversity committee, and the Rush Henrietta School Board. And whereas during that time, Millie has served the town with distinction and excellence, providing great insight and experience in the decision-making and helping making the town a better place. Therefore, be resolved that the Henrietta Town Board thanks Millie Sefranick for her dedication and service to the town of Henrietta, and thanks Millie's family for supporting her endeavors and commitment to the betterment of our community.
Seconded.
So Millie, I've known even longer than I knew Lisa, because I had the pleasure of working with Millie on a number of items, including on the political side of things. The dedication she brings, you know, even to the point where one of the reasons she didn't run this year is because she felt that with her new job, she wouldn't have the full time to spend campaigning, and, you know, didn't want to shortchange the town, so to speak, and her party by not putting in full effort, because she wouldn't have been able to do that. Her dedication, her insight, especially with on the, we'll call it on the labor side of stuff, she was very helpful when a lot of times stuff gets elevated to the town board from a labor standpoint, and her background and skill set in there, as well as on diversity, equity, is second to none. And she's just been a real pleasure to serve with. So I know she's planning to stay involved in a number of boards. So I'm looking forward to that, because like I said, I'm really going to miss serving with Millie, and obviously with Lisa as well. So thank you for all you've done for the town, and thank you for your service.
Millie, thank you so much. The strength of a team, whether it's a board or an athletic team or whatever, is the skills that each person brings, and your talents and skills were just fit in perfectly. It's our mission to make this the best town there is in Monroe County. Thank you so much for all your dedication and hard work. Thank you.
Yeah, Millie, I've been so impressed in the 2 years I've gotten a chance to work with you, and I think Supervisor Schultz said it first, but the perspective that you were able to bring from a standpoint of labor relations was absolutely critical in I think my education about how those matters have to be dealt with. Obviously only having served a couple of years with you, but having known you for a lot longer than that, having the opportunity to work with your two oldest children, whether it's in school, whether it's on the youth board, you've set an incredible example, I think, of commitment to community, and the way that I see them and how they approach life and challenges and service is really, really special. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Millie, I'll just reiterate, I've just really enjoyed serving with you and learning from you, and I just wish you the best.
Thank you. Lisa and I started our term right as COVID was coming in, and the world was changing, and we got to be on the cusp of all of that. And like Lisa said, I just so appreciated all of the work and effort that employees here in the town put into keeping everything going and making everything so fantastic, from the technology to the library services, being able to help so many people even remotely, and keeping everybody safe. It was just so impressive, and I was just so honored to serve in this role. And for sure, as Steve said, I'm not going to disappear. I'm going to continue to work with the diversity committee to help that committee grow and become stronger, and continue to work with the school district with some of the things that I've been involved with before, during, and now after my term. But thank you everyone for this opportunity. It's been a wonderful experience for me, and I hope that I've left a little bit of my mark.
Anybody from the audience wish to add anything? Sure. Okay, while she's bringing Kevin on, why don't we take the opportunity to take the picture of Millie? Then we'll hear Kevin, then we'll do the whole board. We have Kevin.
All right, let me unmute you, Kevin.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. And I'd like to thank Councilwoman Bowser and Councilwoman Safranik for their service. Hate to see them go. I wish, is Councilwoman Safranik her day job, and wish her well on her new day job, or day job and her family come first or more important. It was a tough choice in the election, but the majority of people have spoken. I do agree with Supervisor Schultz as to not having a woman on the town board again. But I know that recycled Councilman Stafford and recycled Councilwoman Barley will be good and put the town first again, like they did before, and bring diversity to our town board again, although it's got to be all male again. And I'm wondering if there's still an opening on a zoning board, if Councilwoman Bolzer would be willing to go back again.
You
Thank
might
you.
ask that question in 2 years. Right now, I think she probably.
I meant go back to the zoning board. It's open again.
Zoning board. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I think it's full, Kevin, but thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, do you want to do a picture of the whole town board? Do we have someone
Sure.
who
Take a picture.
someone want to step
Great.
forward to?
Okay, got it. We take no questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. Yes.
These poor people in the audience are like, let's go.
I know.
Meeting.
We're not done with recognition just yet.
Not done.
We also need to call the roll.
Oh, yeah. See, that's why I try to do it before the pictures.
In two
Oh, but you
locations
weren't
at
here. I
multiple
couldn't
locations
call
at
the roll.
once,
That's
so
right.
it's difficult.
Yep. Hearing no further comment, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page.
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Let me start with the next one.
Yep.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-429, 2023. Whereas the Seeing Henrietta Through Your Eyes contest received a number of creative, thoughtful, and thought-provoking submissions. And whereas the contest committee carefully considered each submission to identify images that met the contest criteria and reflected a variety of perspectives on Henrietta. And whereas the committee selected 12 winning entries from 11 local artists that will be displayed as the banner photo on the town website, one each month, every month in 2024. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board thanks everyone who submitted art for the contest and congratulates the 11 winning artists. Jenny Miranda, Pam Grunman, Julie Kugel, please forgive me if I mispronounce, Cynthia Rich, Bill Brown, Cindy Baquetta, Ed Mosniski, Carol Baldwin, Barbara Barge, Celia Andrew, and Vicky Schultz.
Second.
So these are the pictures, the winning pictures. And again, what will happen is they will appear as the backdrop for our webpage for the month that they were chosen. And as you can see, we have a younger artist who was selected as a winner too. Very appreciative of all the people who submit. There's this was an idea. I think it was the clerks in the library, perhaps. And I think was a great idea on how to, bring to light some of the amazing views and areas around town, as well as highlighting in some cases some of its photographs, some of its artwork, even the photographs and yes, the lower right corner, that is my wife, who one morning as tromped through the snow across the street to get a picture of that shot of don't remember if that was the moon or the sun. I think it might have been the sun during the Canadian wildfires. Just pointing out that photography is art, because as I put it, I take snapshots. My wife takes photographs. So thank you to everybody who submitted, and thank you to the judges who made their selections. Any other comments?
It was a lot. I've served on or helped, I don't know if it served, but I've helped on this committee for the past 2 years. And the difference, we're just getting more and more, and we're getting more changes. We were so thrilled to see. We love the photographs that we get, but we were also so thrilled to see the 2 artworks that we got. It was just really exciting just to see the diversity and just to see how people see Henrietta through their eyes. So this is going to continue. So, when you're out and about at events or something, or you see something that reminds you of Henrietta, snap a photo, because next year you could be here. And it's just wonderful to see.
I just have to say, I just really do love the variety, and thank you to the artists that submitted and to the selection committee. This is just, to me, I can really see the different locations around in Henrietta, and it just really resonates, and just really love the submissions this year. Last year, of course, they were fantastic. But this year, just really love the variety, and how it just really does seem to resonate, Henrietta.
We were just discussing, I see 1 or 2 of the award artists. If you would like to rise to be recognized, I saw Ed and Pam.
What if we get a photo of them?
You want to do it?
Take a photo.
You guys,
Maybe we could put them around that screen or something. Is there a
Okay.
way to
We
do
do
that?
that?
yeah,
On
I
the
would
other
do it
side?
the other screen.
Yeah, why don't we do that? And then that
Would
way,
you guys be willing to pose around the pictures?
are you willing to
Sure.
go up and so we can take a picture of you? Those- Whoever's here that had a submission, we'd love to get your photo.
Yeah, I would say do two on each side would work.
Watch the mic.
You go for it, Lisa.
Okay. You want to look this way? I can see all your faces. You get it in the newsletter. There you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-430/2023. Whereas Patricia Gardner has donated $50 to the Henrietta Historian's Office. And whereas Patricia Gardner is the great-great-granddaughter of William Bullard, a former resident of the town of Henrietta. And whereas Patricia previously donated William's journal to the Historian's Office, and one of the volunteers transcribed the journal. And whereas a check in the amount of $50 was received by the Henrietta Historian, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Patricia Gardner for her generosity.
Second. So over the years, we've had a number of people make donations to the historian's office, both in the form of items as well as cash. And with that, our historian has done a great job in terms of with the cash. We've purchased new display shelves. We've opened up essentially a small museum over at the Tinker Homestead. So if you're ever over there and it's limited hours for the museum, you'll find the hours in the newsletter. But it's neat to see some of the very early stuff, including we had one resident who donated Native American artifacts. They were arrowheads and other tools. And we had someone from the Seneca Nation come in to make sure there wasn't anything of religious nature or obviously anybody's remains. And so they said that the items were found were great for display, so they're on display there as well. So we have stuff from the early founding of the town up through, some of them more, I'll call modern history. So it's really appreciative of those who are willing to donate items, and including in that is the living history of historic houses for those people who register their homes and keep them upkept so that we can all enjoy the history of this town. So thank you. Any other comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have a public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Town of Henrietta Code regarding solar energy systems. So when we first put in the solar energy laws, it was or the updated solar energy laws that included large scale solar. One of the things we did with those is put them in there under the farmland protection. And I know a lot of people might think that sounds contradictory, but it's not actually. Henrietta only has small farms. Our largest farm is 200 acres, and we have one of those. Most of them are 100 acres or smaller. And in today's economy, it's very tough for small farms to survive, so they need some auxiliary income. Solar arrays can provide that. And so the largest a solar array of this class can be is 5 megawatts, which equates to 25 acres. So we set it up so that you could put that in on up to 25% of the farm, and then the remainder of the farm would have to have an agricultural easement placed on it. So it preserves the farmland, keeps it from going to developers, because that's what happens a lot of times when a farm shuts down. To recover their cost and or to retire, they sell the farm, and it gets turned into houses. And so in the 2011 update to the comprehensive land use poll or plan, they had done a poll, and preserving our agricultural heritage and open farm space was some of the just open lands in general were the two highest items, and they both were in the mid to high 90% of the respondents found that very important. So, but one of the things that happens is sometimes you have some farms that they're not large enough to support the cost to put an array on a farm. There's a large interconnect charge. Some farms are in areas where they can't connect to the grid. There's no good connection for that solar arrays. And so in discussing this, we looked at rather than require it to be the same farm, we would allow it to be that the grid goes on one portion of land, but then another farmland within the town of Henrietta has to be preserved, and we decided to make it 4x. So if it's within the same farm, essentially, it could be 1/4 arrays and 3/4 farmland, preserved farmland. But in this case, if it's two separate properties, and if it's a 15-acre array, you would need to preserve 60 acres of farmland. So it serves the original purpose and goals set out in the comprehensive land use update, while giving that flexibility for those properties that can't support both the array and the preservation of farmland all on the same property. So does anybody have any comments regarding the law? Do we have anything online?
Yes, I do have a hand raised in our virtual audience. This is Andrew.
Go ahead.
Yes, this is Andrew Dinsmore that lives next to Mark and Linda Hines. I have multiple questions here. Number one is they're currently farming through Monroe County GIS and talking to the farmer over 15 acres. It's actually 15.5.
Are you talking about special use permit application 2023-42?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Special use.
Are you talking about a specific application, or are you talking about the law in general?
I'm just talking about what I know. I didn't know you had a meeting last night about this. I would have liked to have known. I asked you personally when I was at the meeting last time, and you told me the next time this would be brought up was today, the 20th.
There was no meeting last night.
Planning?
Oh, planning board had a planning board. That's yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked to have known that, but whatever. But they're farming 15 point some acres. They're putting 55.7 acres into this, whatever you call it. This is always supposed to be farmed land, I guess. So the math doesn't jive there. Second of all, I called the farmer tonight, Mark Krieger from Willard Farms, because you stated the last meeting on December 6th that he had no issues with accessing my property with this solar farm. And he stated that nobody has contacted him or Willard Farms. And you specifically, Schultz, stated that you talked to the farmer on December 6th.
I had said I didn't personally, that someone had reached out to him and talked to him.
Who is that person?
I will have to go back and look into it.
Because I specifically talked to him tonight and he said nobody reached out to him or his family
Okay,
and he had a problem with it.
okay.
And the numbers don't jive up.
And by the way, I didn't say what you claimed I said. I did not say they didn't have access. The question asked was whether they,
You said they had access. And there was no issue with the farmer. I watched it on YouTube. today.
what I said, and you're welcome to pull up the minutes. They're online.
I watched the video today.
What I had said was that the question was whether the removal of those 14 acres would cause them not to farm the other acreage. That was the question, as I understood it. I don't.
I watched a YouTube video today, so you can go back and watch it yourself.
I was reading the minutes last night, but anyway, whatever. Okay.
Exactly, whatever. This is just being pushed down. It's gonna happen.
Slow down. This is not the special use permit application. This is a public hearing regarding the proposed local law.
Right. I'm just going through what I'm saying is that if you go on Monroe County GIS and look at their acreage.
I'm going to interrupt you because you're talking about a specific, do that in the next public hearing. This is about the local law, not the special use permit. You're talking about a special use permit. We're not in that public hearing yet. Do you have any comments about the local law itself?
That's the problem is I'm not familiar with it. I'm just like,
Okay.
when is this next meeting then? When should I come back online or
It's
show up?
the very next public hearing. Just wait till I'll bang the gavel, close this public hearing. We'll open the next public hearing, which is a special use permit application. You can talk about that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody who wishes to speak about the proposed local law? Then hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Town of Henrietta Code regarding solar energy systems. Next up, we have the continued public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-042, Green Spark Solar, Tobin Henrietta Solar LLC, 55 Tobin Road, to construct and operate a 3 megawatt AC solar energy system through incentive zoning.
Thank you for seeing us again. My name is Mia Morgillo. I represent Green Spark Solar along with my colleague Matt Vanderbrook. I just wanted to address a few things as far as our layout revision, which has reduced our megawatt size, our DC size, down to 3.47 megawatts, and reducing our modules down to 5,976. We have also decreased the acreage that we will be using for our layout from 14.1 to 13.69. This is to address that amended solar code, allowing for the 55.78 acres to fulfill that 4 times amount. This land is owned by Bruce Howlett on 1112 East River Road, and is more than the 4 times that is required.
Had you spoken to the farmer by any chance? I don't.
Mark Hines, the landowner, has, if you'd like him to speak to that.
Sure, I would.
I'm Mark Hines from 55 Tobin Road. I'm one of the landowners that is trying to get this project started. I had mention of the solar array with the farmer 2 weeks ago. Wasn't it 2 weeks ago? When we got the check for the farming of the land. And we had basically a very one-sided conversation. I did most of the talking, and the gentleman just listened to me and hemmed and hawed. That's about it. He was aware that we would be doing that. And as far as I know, that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else you'd like to present before I open it up for questions?
Just that also on our revised layout, you'll notice that we did shift our modules a little bit. That was just to shift us out of the drainage ditch that runs east and west through the property.
Great. One of the things we looked at, a couple of things that have been brought up previously. There was questions brought up about how much regrading is going to be done. One of the conditions we placed on this would be that if there's going to be a change greater than 3 feet from the current grade, that any such plan would require approval from the town engineer, and that any unapproved changes greater would have to be corrected prior to receiving a certificate of compliance.
Understood.
And then, based off of your willingness to do the 2-for-1 tree, we did put that in there. So again, that if there's any hardwood trees or other, valuable trees, that they're replaced 2 new trees for each one of those that is removed. And again, our preference would be that those trees are harvested. It doesn't have to be by you, but we don't want to just see them cut down and essentially thrown away. So.
And we also understand that condition to be us providing a map of those trees to the town as well.
Yep. Any other comments? Any other questions from the board before we open it up to the public?
Not at the moment.
Okay, why don't we start with the gentleman online, Mr. Dinsmore? So this is the public hearing that you should be speaking to. I will just note that at the last meeting, you were asked when this public hearing was going to continue. That is this meeting today. Yesterday was planning board, not town board.
Okay, but I saw looking online that it was approved by the planning board, but whatever.
The site plan was approved contingent upon them receiving a special use permit.
Okay, I'm not aware of the legalities.
Yeah, so
But-
basically it just means that, they look at how the plan is laid out, how all that stuff works in terms of, but the site plan approval is meaningless if the special use permit is not issued.
Okay, so I'll start out first of all too, like Green Sparks has never contacted me. They've never talked to me. We talked about trees falling. Still no, I don't understand how that's gonna work out. And I do have trees way bigger than 50 foot in my hedgerow, which split between me and Mark. I don't know, a survey would have to tell who owns what. My other issue is they're farming more than 15 acres. So that'd be over 60 acres you'd have to put in this.
No, that's not the way the code works.
Okay,
The acreage of the array is basically what's inside the fence.
okay,
That's the acreage that matters. If the current farmer decides not to farm any of the remnant acres, that's up to the farmer. Again, as a town, we cannot require that farmers continue to farm fields. We
Okay.
can't require that the property owners are not allowed to develop their property within the laws of the zoning codes and other applicable laws. So in this particular case, they shrunk the size of the array slightly so that it would fit and meet the code with regards to because of the amount of available farm land that they had to offset that which was being taken out of production due to the arrays.
okay. So my next question is the Hollitz farm that they're putting in this I don't know what you call it. Is that forever farmable only?
It's conservation, so while the conservation easement is on there, it either has to be farming, so agriculture, or nothing, right? It could sit idle. They're not required, again, we can't require that they continue to farm it. But you know, their plan is to continue farming that.
And what's the timeline? Is that forever?
It is for as long as the array is installed,
Okay.
or a minimum of 25 years.
Okay,
So if the array lasts for 30 years, it has to stay there for 30 years. Once the array is out and the original farmland is restored, they can lift that, conservation easement.
okay.
I will note that I was pretty sure I saw interaction and discussion between you and the representatives of Green Sparks at the last minutes or at the last meeting, and I thought I saw those discussions in the minutes, including with regards to the trees. Because I remember you brought up a question with the Green Spark folks with regards to if tree falls on the fence, who's liable, et cetera. And, you know, that's where the 50-foot tree came up. There was also discussion. They made clear that they are going to remove any dead trees as part of this. If the tree is on your property and you would like them to remove it, if it's at a risk of, now obviously we're not talking about ones that aren't anywhere near the property in question, but if they're along that edge and they're just across the property line, I'll ask them if they are willing to do it, but I suspect they would be willing to take down the tree, as you would have to give them permission to enter your property for the removal of that tree. But again,
That's like another one of my problems. They've never, they have not contacted me. I was not on their contact list. They've never come to my door. And our border is 100% of this on to the north.
Mr. Martin, were they included in was his property included in the notification list?
Nope. Nope, we were never included in anything.
Hold on. In the notification for the special use permit, their property was included. Christopher Martin, the Director of Engineering and Planning, said that is correct. So I don't know why you wouldn't have received it, but notice was sent to your property from the town.
Okay, there was a letter about this 2 months ago, and now it's happening no matter what. But Green Sparks personally has never contacted me and said, hey, let's talk about this.
So Andrew, I am quite remiss that we were never able to get into contact with you. The first time we appeared in front of the town board back in November, I was in contact with your wife verbally, where I asked to exchange information. I was pretty readily dismissed on that account and still was able to give her my contact card. And I mean, she was not willing to provide me with any of her information, so I had no other way to reach out.
You know where we live.
Yeah, I apologize about that. I was out of town for the month for training and I could not make it. But yeah, this has to be discussed. I mean, like how this is going to happen, and trees are going to have to be removed on my property and or Heinz. I don't know whose.
Okay, so
Without a surveyor, I don't know whose trees are whose, because we have probably 3,000 feet of property.
We're gonna be doing that. I mean, we've done surveys, and as we get, if we get approved in advance through design, that will be determined. And then we're also doing a tree survey of the property to understand, you know, if a tree's coming down, what is it? And what are we gonna do to replace it and meet the 2-to-1 ratio requirements?
so again, those are conditions of the special use permit. And again, you keep using this, it's going in no matter what. That's not how this works. So again, a special use permit process is the applicant comes in with if it's not a legitimate use, then it immediately is rejected. This is a legitimate use. Under special use permits, there's a number of factors we have to look at. And as part of it also is a state environmental quality review process. We hold the public hearings. Our town personnel look for potential adverse impacts, and we also take comments from the public to listen to potential adverse impacts. You yourself have brought a number of them up. What happens then is we put together the seeker review. We present that back to the applicants. They have to come up with ways that mitigate those issues to the satisfaction of the town board. When they present such a mitigation, we don't just take their word for it, we put it in as a condition on the special use permit, and there are 21 conditions on the special use permit. If they don't meet any one of these, then the project does not move forward. A number of them have to be met prior to ever being issued a building permit to get started. There's other ones, usually the ones that take much longer to do stuff, or that it's a result of the construction itself, like the grading. It's a condition, they can't get a certificate of compliance, which means they can never turn the thing on. Obviously, they don't want to invest a whole lot of money and never turn the thing on. So that gives the town great leverage, but the purpose of a special use permit hearing is not to say, no, you can't do it. It's to say, here are the parameters within which you are allowed to do it. If they are unwilling or unable to do that, then we deny it. But if they are able to successfully mitigate all of the potential adverse conditions, then the thing gets approved. So this is not being ramrodded through. They've been, this is at least the third public hearing, maybe fourth meeting they've been at.
Third.
And that's just for the town board. It doesn't include that they've also been to planning board as well. So, we take this responsibility very seriously. We look at the aspects, we put limitations on it to try to minimize the impacts. Now, I don't want a solar array in my backyard. That is not a legitimate complaint. I know.
It absolutely is, but that's okay.
Okay. You're welcome to run for town supervisor, and
That's a political answer. So my last question, I guess, will be, who
it's not a
told you?
political answer. Whatever, go ahead.
That's political, but who told you that the farmer said there's no issue with access?
The property owner told us that. Well, again, that wasn't the question I had asked him.
Well, you stated that in the last meeting. Watch the YouTube video, and I just called him. He's like, nobody called me and asked me. He's like, nobody talked to me about that.
Well, again.
I know you don't care about that. It's okay.
The property owner did speak to him.
And he said that there was a one-sided conversation. And he didn't really say anything.
Okay.
That wasn't exactly, he said he had access.
Whatever.
You gotta agree to that, right, please?
No.
Okay.
I think it's a little difficult to understand exactly what the farmer may or may not have has said to any number of people.
Well, the
Farmer
guy
is
he
represented.
did what he said.
But I will say, I think our dealings right at the moment are with the property owner and with Green Spark.
Let me ask this, is the farmer online or in the audience?
No, absolutely not. He's not political. He would never get involved in this.
Okay. Well, we have the property owners that are here and speaking on behalf of the property that they own.
Okay, so me as a property owner that is an ag exemption for some reason could not access my property and I could no longer get that ag exemption. Are you willing to pay the access?
Hold on. Why can't they access your property?
Well, they can from the top, but it's all seeded because I tried to take out the minimal from what could be farmed.
So you're basically saying that your issue is that your farming to get your exemption has to come through your neighbor's property, that you're unwilling to provide a farm access through your own property so that you can get the agricultural exemption. Is that what you're telling me?
No, absolutely not. That's a nice political answer.
So are you saying that if you can't provide a farm access so that you can continue to get the agricultural exemption?
I absolutely can.
Okay, thank you.
No matter what. It just made it easier for him.
Sure.
It was because he does all of the south to me and works his way down through the fields. He wouldn't have to go out onto the road, which he just put a roadway in to a field and come back out and come back down.
Okay. Becky, are the minutes up on the OneDrive?
And I did just want to say we would be open to having a condition where we would have to meet with these landowners and figure out a solution that we can both move forward on.
For access?
Well,
Not for
it's not
access,
for
but
access,
just
but-
more for comfort and understanding of the project.
Yeah,
I don't know
Yeah,
how that
can't-
can, right?
you could just agree to do that. The problem is with that condition, essentially, you're now giving them the right to decline, because all they have to say is, no matter what you say,
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable. Right? So if you wish to speak, come forward.
He wants solar.
Oh. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Linda Hines. I'm one of the landowners. Andy, are you still on?
Oh, yes, Linda.
How did they access your land to seed it when I went in to talk to the guy so they wouldn't waste the seed on my land? Because they didn't go through our property to get to your land.
Oh, yeah, he absolutely did.
No, he didn't. Because I was home. He did not go through the fields to get to your land. He somehow got to your land.
Oh,
Okay,
he comes,
That's
he
why
comes
I
up through the
don't
north.
Understand.
okay, let's
He
hold
came
up.
through the north. No, there's access to my property without yours, but it definitely makes it easier. Like I talked to him tonight. I just had the question with him because the supervisor stated that the farmer had no issue with access. So I asked him, anybody ask you? He's like, no, nobody asked me.
Becky, is the minutes up on the, are they up on the drive?
I just dropped them in the minutes for review folder.
Minutes for review folder. Okay, see you. Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to make a comment? Come on forward.
Hi, Jim McGowan, 143 Reeves Road. Since the project's been altered somewhat, can you show me exactly what's been changed on the array?
Absolutely. I can.
And how does that impact where it connects to our property?
So nothing on your side of the array, corners to the fencing.
Mhm.
Yeah, the south.
Okay. Where did the, excuse me, Supervisor Schultz, where did the 3 feet of change come in?
Somebody had expressed a concern about there not being excessive grading. We had to pick some threshold that was considered excessive. And so we just chose 3 feet. So again, any grading changes would have to be less than 3 feet in height.
All right.
Do you think that's too large a number or?
It potentially, depending on where it falls, yes, I think it could be.
Well, so
That's my
again,
concern.
the grading in terms of that still has to meet with regards to drainage and other stuff like that. That's just saying they can't make it. It's essentially a backstop because there was concern about, well, could they raise the panels up too high? And it was a
Mhm.
way to prevent that.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you tell me at this point what you're planning to raise and where?
Not yet. That's unfortunately, it's something we have to finalize designs and then work with structural engineers to finalize that and as part of our stormwater
Mhm.
plan as well. But I think when we get to that point, we'll have it in draft form and then we'll meet with you and show you. what it
And
looks like.
would this be just raising where the panels are themselves, not all the way out to?
The intention is not, yeah, just where the panels are themselves. Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whether we. need
Not
to-
beyond the fencing?
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yep. Only within the fence of
Okay.
the project.
All right. Well, if you can show us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's accessible online to the public, correct? Anything we've submitted to the board?
Yes.
So it should be online. I can also send it to you.
And when we have.
If you go to henrietta.org/projects, it'll be right up there.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when we have the grading plan, we can make sure that we reach out and share that with you.
Okay. I'd appreciate that.
Not a
All right.
problem.
Thank you.
Of course.
We pulled up the minutes and what I had said is we did check to make sure that if this was taken off the table, would affect their farming the other properties. And the farmer said, no, it would not. It would continue to farm the other properties. That would have been a concern if we took this off the table and he then walked away. And again, based off of the discussion, he did not indicate that he was going to stop farming. So doesn't say access. I get it that the phrase affect others, you might have interpreted that as access, but I was referring to the question as to whether he was going to continue farming. So, anyway. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm trying to understand why if a tree on his property falls onto our land, because a tree on his property already did fall onto our land and we had to take care of it. So I'm trying to figure out, I didn't understand what you
It-
meant by that.
Yeah, so
because-
basically, he was just asking if he has a tall, dead tree and it falls on the fence, would he be liable for the fence? And the answer is yes. And so he was expressing the concern, well, there's a
Okay.
bunch of tall, dead ash trees there, and
There
you're gonna
is.
now put this fence and a raise there, and it's gonna raise the risk of
Okay.
the tree fall.
Okay.
So basically, they're willing to take those dead trees down, even if they're just across the border onto his farm.
Okay.
It's not gonna, I'm not asking
Right.
you to do it.
Right.
They're willing to do it.
Yeah,
Because they're
I
gonna be
already
out there.
said the same thing to him.
Right,
if a
they're
tree
already
falls
out
on
there.
Our land onto it.
Exactly.
So,
Right, so they're already out there clearing dead trees anyway. What's a few more?
okay. All right, I just was
Yep,
confused.
no, that's all it was. It was just, he had asked the question at the last meeting whether if a tree from his property fell on the arrays, whether he would be liable, and the answer is yes, you're liable for trees. Hopefully, you have insurance, but insurance companies are very good at avoiding paying out. So removing the potential hazard tree makes a lot more sense, especially since it's dead, and probably just supporting abundant grapevines. Because that's what the ones in the property behind my house do. Any other questions, comments coming up?
Oh, just one more. If we could be notified in writing when, if this is approved, when things are going to start, et cetera,
Absolutely.
the grading issues, actual construction, tree removal, et cetera.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yep. So one of the other things, for you guys, if you want to, at this meeting, exchange information, if you haven't already, for anybody who's online and hasn't exchanged information, you can send an email to supervisor@henrietta.org and I will put you in touch with Green Spark. If if you're an adjacent neighbor, note that even with regards to this special use permit approval, there are a number of other approvals that is contingent upon, including last I knew, the Department of Ag and Markets had not finished their date has run that we should have had the NOI by now, but
Yes, and that was a condition of our site plan approval as well.
right. So the point is, if Ag and Markets says no, then this is a no-go, because again, anytime there is stuff like this in an agricultural district on working farm, it has to get approval from there as well. There's some county, well, I don't remember if this one had county approvals. I know the other one did, but there's a number of other approvals that the whole special use permit, that's one of the 21 conditions. So like I said, I can't speak for the other board members, but from what I've seen, they've successfully addressed every single issue we've brought forth. So I personally don't see a reason why this wouldn't receive special use permit approval. But again, it's conditioned on a lot of things, including a number of them that have to happen before they could ever pull a building permit. And before they can build a building permit, they've got to complete, their surveying, they've got to complete the plans, all that stuff as far as where they're going to put the stuff. So even if it's approved tonight, it's still a ways off before anything goes in the ground. Any other questions?
I do have, Andrew has his hand raised again here online.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had questions again about the trees. I do have, and I'm not concerned. I know Linda said that she had a tree fall. That was mine, that was hers. That's incorrect. But there is a lot of dead ash in there, and the wind blows out of the west. So there is going to be an issue. Whether it probably wouldn't hit the solar array looking at the setbacks, but it could very well hit a fence. And my insurance will not cover it because they're dead. I know they're dead, but I can't afford to take them all out.
So again, if they're near the array, they are willing to take those trees down.
Right, it's not gonna be near the array, it's gonna be near the fence, looking at the setback.
That's the same thing. When we talk about from a approval standpoint, the array is everything inside the fence. It's not just the panels. It's
Okay.
it's all the electronics, it's the transformers, it's everything inside that fence. The fence is what delineates the array as far as we're concerned from an acreage standpoint, everything else, so.
Okay, and the only last thing I would like to say is to Mr. and Mrs. Hines, they've been very nice neighbors. I hope at the end, this is not personal. I like them personally. They're good people. And that's it, I guess. They can still come and borrow something. They need help with something. I will help them. But this is just my personal feelings.
Sure.
So.
At the last meeting, I had asked the question whether you had a preference for when they're infilling any gaps in the screen wall, whether you had a preference for deciduous or fir trees. Have you expressed a preference?
No, my only thing is obviously we have a lot of deer here and deer love certain types of trees. My only thing is I don't want to see it or hear it. I don't know what my best avenue is for that. So I leave it to the experts for that.
Okay.
Typically, we've been doing, working with a landscape architect. They like to propose something that's not just a single species, right? It's like multiple species that you're deciduous and conifers and probably some other, shrubs and stuff. So they'll be.
Well, that makes sense. So when one species gets a disease, they don't all die.
Yeah, we've actually been requiring that. We updated our town code with regards to all this stuff because too many times in the past, people planted monocultures.
Yep.
And whether it was Dutch elm disease, emerald ash borers, disease comes through and wipes out whole fields. So that's problematic. Okay.
So my last thing will be, I don't have a way to contact GreenSpark and I don't have a way to give them my contact, but I live at 31 Tobin Road. You can email me or mail me a letter or something.
Well, again, and I think you've already have emailed me. Is that correct?
Yes, I have your email through the town.
You want me to put you in touch with GreenSpark through email?
That would be fine.
Okay.
You have my work email, I assume.
Whichever one you sent to me, I don't remember which it was.
Yeah, it'd be through the fire district.
Okay. I will send you theirs and you can contact them from whichever email you wish to use.
That's fine, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else? Put a note to myself so I don't forget. Okay, hearing and seeing no further comments, I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-042, GreenSpark Solar. Next up, we have a public hearing for special use permit application number 2023-024 and 045. West Sunset Development LLC, West Henrietta Road, to construct a senior housing development with 2 26-unit apartment buildings and 3 4-unit ranch-style apartment buildings with 8 units designed to accommodate the hearing impaired. That's permit application number 024, and will allow a height of 40 feet. That's application 045. We will, because it's a related project, we will hold the 2 hearings together. Please introduce yourself and your relationship to the project, and then give us a description.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is John Sharaba with Landtech. I'm representing the application tonight. With me this evening is Lou Bavone and Alex Baronin. They are both partners in this project. I'd also like to point out that both of these gentlemen are extremely successful businessmen in the Henrietta community and are looking to make another project as an asset to the community as their businesses are. We were here back in September and presented this project to the board. The project, as the public notice states, is an apartment project, market rate, in this our residential area, and that's why we're here. We're asking for a special permit to allow this apartment and townhouse living style community. Back at that point, in September, we had a plan, and there were some issues with the plan. The board wanted us to take a step back and see if we could do things to improve our separation from the neighbors. and things related to that. So we took some time, and if I can just flip this over and show the board.
Sure.
One of the things that the first thing we did is we eliminated some units. We took one of the 4-unit buildings out that's on Henrietta Road and removed that from the plan. So that that's obviously an economic factor in the concept plan. Losing units is something an owner never really wants to do. The second thing, another big element of the plan, is the 26-unit buildings. They were originally facing west towards the road. We turned those 90 degrees and turned them internal to themselves. So it creates kind of directing more of the activity of the site internally and away from the neighbors. And that helped us achieve some other goals. It created better separation from our north property line and our east property line and our west property line. We also eliminated traffic that was circulating 100% around both of the 26-unit buildings. So we were able to put no parking or pavement along our south property line and our north property line. Also, the original plan, we had parking on our east property line, which affects the residential neighbor that has kind of a flag lot situation that sits on adjacent to our property. We had a building that was within 60 feet of his property line, and we moved that to 123 feet from his property line. We also removed the parking in that area. So we have an area where you can really get some landscaping in there to try to buffer that. And that building now sets about 220 feet from the residential home in that area. We're also in the area down towards the existing pond. We have 2 4-unit buildings and some parking associated with that. We were able to push those further away and create some more separation. So this plan really took on a lot of the changes that we did. We showed elements of landscaping. We're hoping to move in the near future to the planning board and discuss them in more details, but it's provided, I think, what the feeling that we had from the neighbors at that time of separation. The other issue is the building height. This is a 3-story building, and I'll turn this over to show you. So this is, I guess I would just focus on this building because this is where, the height issue is. The peak of the roof is at 48 feet and a half, plus or minus, and the eave elevation is at 39 and a half, which we look at that, the average, the midpoint of that roof, the midpoint of the roof is at 39. Let's call it 40 feet. The code requires that to be 35 feet. So we're 5 foot above that elevation. So we're looking for relief from that. And I think with the style of the building, the separation that we've begun to achieve, that 5 feet is really negligible, and we hope that the board sees fit to give us the special use variance for that. As a public notice stated, we have some units that are planned for some handicap hearing accessible units. Those would be along the pond area. We have plenty of parking on site. We have 12 2-car garage units. Those are associated with townhome living. We have 12 units in each building for the 26-unit building and 58 parking spots out on the exterior. We eliminated a lot of parking that we had before. We feel that we don't need it. There's not a lot of activity on these sites, and we feel that the parking demand is well met. So, going over briefly, we feel that we took a lot of great time upgrading the concept to where it is now. I do call it a concept plan because we're looking forward to submitting to the engineering department and the planning board and working with them and taking on their ideas of separation and the landscaping. This is an all private project, so there's no dedicated features. So there's no dedicated road, sewer, or water. And we think it's going to be an asset to the community and an asset to the area. So with that, I can take any questions you have regarding the new plan.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for the effort you put in to meeting the, addressing the issues that were brought up previously, especially with respect to the distance from the neighbor properties, reducing the amount of pavement and increasing the amount of green space. It's a very green environment or layout. I'd say I don't know many apartment complexes that come close to this much greenery. So that's that is much more in fitting with the area in which this sits. So again, very appreciative of that. You know, one of the things in looking at from the architecture standpoint, we did receive a letter discussing the, that they felt that, you know, that the structure that tall, and with that design wasn't fitting with the characteristic of the neighborhood. You know, one of the things I will note, a similar objection came up when Erie Station Village was being built. And the way that one was mitigated is that some of those apartment buildings were had a more, I'll call it agrarian architecture style. So either looking like a barn in some of the cases, or a farmhouse. You know, so one of the things that we're probably going to take a look at, and because this is the first time the updated plans have come back and we don't have feedback from the residents yet, just to be clear, we're not going to act on this tonight. But what we're going to try to do is collect all the information to put together the seeker so that if there are things that have to be mitigated, you'll have a chance to respond to them before the next meeting. You know, so I would like to see if there's something you could work on to, you know, try to get more of that agricultural aesthetic. Because again, that's the part of town you're in. And like I said, if you want to see some examples, there's some buildings of similar size over in Erie Station Village that have that agricultural look. They're in the West Henrietta Hamlet. You're a bit south of the West Henrietta Hamlet. If you go further south, you start to get into a couple industrial spaces, but that area is still kind of that, has that agricultural feel. And, you know, as an individual pointed out in their letter, that's part of what drew them to this area. So, you know, as we take a look at it as much as you can, we'd like to preserve that characteristic. Now, one of the things I will note is that because you rotated the buildings, you're not presenting this large front to the street. And so it should be easier, I would think, to, you know, address the sides that are facing out towards the road to get that that agrarian look, for lack of a better way to describe it. Just to be clear, we are not the architectural review. That's the function of the planning board. So what we would have as a condition on this special use permit, if it's approved, that essentially that they would fit the characteristic of the neighborhood as determined by the planning board as part of site plan review. But again, I agree with the individual that it should look like that characteristic, or you know, the look and feel of that neighborhood. But I think it is eminently achievable, and I know this because other developers have done so. So, I don't know if you wish to address or comment on that.
Well, I think it's something that we really haven't talked about in previous meetings. So I'm with you on that, and I'm familiar with Erie Station and the layout and the look of those buildings. So I think it's something we can look into. I think that, you know, I know the applicant's committed to the project, and if we have to look at something at least on those two front facades or put other elements that have an agricultural feel, I think we can work towards that end. I don't want to, you know, I don't know what the numbers.
That's why I said I want to give you time.
Yeah,
because,
yeah. So we'll.
And as someone who's driven West Henrietta Road from Brooks all the way down to Lakeville, I'll tell you there are a lot of. There are some, you know, if you look at some of the old farmhouses, there were Greek revival, there were, you know, but you still look at them and you say that's a farmhouse. So like I said, even with, you know, and they have the big porches. They even have the stacked porches. So again, that can be done. But when I look at this, I don't see farm, you know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, maybe we could change the color to red and remove the stone, but I think that's a simplistic point of view. But I think with some of those elements we can look at.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure your architect will have some great suggestions as to what you can do. Yeah. I overall, like I said, I like the layout much better. I think it's much better from a traffic flow. I like that again, that all the buildings have large green areas around them as opposed to previous, there was a lot of pavement. One of the other things you can potentially do to help is that Center Drive, and it looks like you got some stuff in there, but that it could look like a tree lined country road, right? So like I said, I think there's a lot of just little touches you can do to make it so that it fits this area, this part of town, as opposed to, some of the portions up further north is what it kind of looks like to me right now. But I like that the 8 units are grouped together. I think that'll be great because, one of the things, not everybody communicates using sign language. So to be able to have an area where some of our residents who are looking for a place to retire to have a place where they can still have that sense of community. I think that's awesome. So like I said, I like that whole layout. And again, I like the overall layout with the large areas of green, the landscape that you're going to use to provide a buffer to the neighboring properties. I just think it's much better plan than what you first came in with. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Lou, for all the effort to make this work. Other board members.
John, I'm sure you saw the fire marshal's concerns with the 26-foot driveway and the turning so that the ladder truck can turn around and all that.
We don't see any problem achieving those goals.
Okay, thank you.
Everything I think is currently 24 feet, so tweaking it with 2 extra feet won't be a problem.
Yeah. And there was a concern about hydrants, I think.
The hydrants?
Yeah, I think there was. He made a comment about it.
I think this is going to be sprinklered because of the 3-story. We already kind of navigated that. But if we have to bring a hydrant internal to satisfy any of the fire marshal's requirements, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
The others? Then I'm going to open it up to comments from the public. John, if you want to sit at the table there in case you need to answer questions.
Good evening, Mike Berardi.
Amy Berardi.
We're at 6500 West Henrietta Road. And just wanted to start by telling Supervisor Schultz and the council members, we appreciate your time. It's already been kind of a long meeting. I don't know, meetings normally go this long or not, but we appreciate your time in hearing us today. We had sent out a letter dated December 1st and from ourselves, Amy Stockton and Mo. I'm assuming that all the members received that letter.
We did.
Yep. Okay. And I had an extra copy in case. Mo is present tonight. Also, Amy talked to her and she wasn't able to make it, feeling under the weather. I'm not going to take the time to read the whole letter, maybe just go through a few of the highlights. Some of the items have been talked about somewhat already. The reason, we found a home, looking for a home in Rochester. We had traveled up to Webster and kind of made a circle around to all the suburbs of Rochester. And as we traveled back south to our home at the time in Wellsville, New York, going down 390 or going down 15, as you move down the roads from the busyness of East Avenue to Jefferson to Kelkins, Lehigh Station Road, it just gets more rural, go underneath 90 Erie Station Road. It just seemed more like what we were used to of home in Allegheny County. So that was the reason we chose to settle here and we like Henrietta. The character of the neighborhood, you spoke some of that already. Supervisor Shelton, appreciate the ideas of changing the brick look of that. I still think that a 3-story high building, doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood. When this was, rezoned to be, 5 2.5 acre type lots and, houses were gonna be built there was the thinking. That seemed, to fit the character of the neighborhood, and, we wouldn't have issue with that. I don't know the ranch style, they're called ranch. Are these 2-story high buildings or are they? John, are these-
The eight
To the end or,
small units, you can just answer the question.
they're 1-story building, they'll probably have a second floor, like a, storage area, but not that 2-story.
What kind of height? What height?
22 feet high.
So more similar to a 2-story height. So the idea of the ranch style, that are 2-story more fit houses, and if they were built in a way to match the character of the neighborhood, although I see apartments as being commercial and not really rural residential, more of a business venture than a home, that might be okay. The 3-story, the height, the 40 feet, we have issue with. I don't know if you can make that fit in with, ranch style houses that are 1-story or 2-story houses that when you go up and down, Henrietta Road or the neighboring parallel road, middle road, you'll find houses that are styled like that. So we have concern with that. Secondly, just kind of what I mentioned that, this business ventures, it's commercial, it's
And
It's
just to be
apartments.
clear, it's not.
not.
Multifamily is not considered a commercial enterprise.
Okay.
I mean, anybody can buy your single family home and rent it.
Right.
Yes, they are arguably a business entity, but that's not considered commercial. Commercial is like a retail store, a restaurant,
Okay.
that type of stuff. This is considered multifamily housing.
All right.
Which is an allowed use for senior multifamily only. So this can only have senior residents.
So since it's senior, it changes the ability to do that. Like a 26 apartment building doesn't seem like renting out your house.
Well, it's not rural residential at that point. It's,
I
right? I don't know.
understand.
Yeah, yeah.
When the rural residential area was created, it included senior housing. So like, there's a number of, so like the Masonic care community, that's in the rural residential. The Legacy is in the rural residential, although I think that area was rezoned R215 when that was done, which is specifically for multifamily.
And what are the heights? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what are the heights of those buildings? I'm not really.
Oh, the Masonic, they're up, what was it, like 50 feet. Now there's had a little bit difference in this one in that the property slopes down towards the thruway. And so the taller buildings were downhill. So the roof lines were consistent, but the front ones were, if I remember correctly, they were 2 stories, but again, because of 2-story and, they're a full 2-story plus the roof. Those ones were what you would probably consider 3-story, but so like I said, there's a lot of different styles. And when you get over to where the Legacy is, I mean, there's right nearby, there is a bar and restaurant, there's a school nearby, which is obviously much taller than that. So it's a little different feel over there. But like I said, that, one other thing, just to be clear, this was not rezoned. What they had done is a previous property owner had subdivided to sell single family homes. The current owner decided they would rather do senior multifamily as opposed to essentially open single family. which again is their property right, assuming that they can get approval. So the single families don't require a special use permit. Multifamily does, specifically because of these potential impacts, right? A single family home typically doesn't have anywhere near the potential impact that a multifamily has. And, you know, again, going back to you can argue that we denied the previous application, right? We basically told them the way you had it laid out before, it was too full, it was too close to the neighbors. This isn't gonna fly. So they've come back, they took their time, they listened to all the criticism, and they're trying to make it work. So, you know, it is an allowed use. As to whether it makes sense to have senior housing in the rural area, you can make that argument, except that decision was made long ago and it's an allowed use. So we can't say, sorry, we don't agree with whoever made the code back then. If we feel that way, we would have to change the code, but it would be too late because they've already got an application.
Understood.
With that said, you know, like I said, your character of neighborhood is spot on and does have to work in that. It'll be a matter of opinion as to the board members, and it'll be the three of us plus the two board members elect as to whether we believe, you know, in other words, like I said, if you go look at the Erie Station Village ones, there's some pretty tall buildings there. And I know this because there was another application in that area, but they're not imposing. They really aren't. They look and fit. And a part of that is the large green spaces around them, which this one also has. So, and again, by turning them, it doesn't create this big heavy facade on the road. So that also does help. The primary facade faces each other, and then there are wooded areas between those and the adjacent properties. And which of the property are you, to the north, south, or east?
We're the flag end property.
You're the flag property. And so, you know, one of the things in regards to that is, again, as we look at this in terms of, as you heard me talk to the other residents, if you have a preference for, you know, that buffer, let us know. Because again, those are examples of conditions we can put on there that, you know, like if you prefer it to be conifer, if you're afraid that, now again, it's senior apartments, for those Monty Python fans, the old Hell's Grannies, I don't think we're going to have them here. But, you know, some apartment complexes, people sometimes ask, you know, if you think there's a risk of people crossing into your property, we can take a look at, can that be mitigated with a fence? Again, with the senior apartments, I think that risk is much reduced, but you have to let us know if you think that's a risk. And other things with regards to that.
At what point would it be appropriate to do that? Because John did reach out to me. And I told him at that time, I really didn't want to talk because I'm not sure, you know, I'm not in favor of the project. So
I
how
understand that.
can I at the same time talk with John and say, well,
Well,
it would want to pass?
so again, the way it works is you have to identify what you think are potential adverse impacts. And then it's up to John to try to overcome them. If you don't talk to him and point those out, then they do not end up part of the special use permit and they will not be addressed if it's approved. You know, one of the things that there's misconception that it's a public vote. It is not. It's not a public vote. There are specific with it's a land use decision. There are specific criteria we have to look at that are spelled out in the town code. Character of neighborhood is one of them. And then there are a bunch of aspects that we have to look at from a seeker standpoint. And so that's what we have to measure it on, not whether there are a number of people, you know, that the nearest neighbors are against it. You have to put forth, like I said, what you think are some potentially adverse impacts, and if they can address them, then it gets approved generally. If they can't, are unwilling or unable to mitigate those issues, then it typically gets denied. That's the way that the system works.
Speaking on the distance from the properties, and I'm not certain that have the latest, but the property that butts up against Amy Stockton's property, I see 78 feet from the parking lot, not 100. So
It's from the turnaround.
Mhm.
So sometimes, so the planning board does have the ability to reduce that. That's a turnaround for fire safety.
Okay.
Vehicles, so they will often allow an incursion into that buffer for the fire safety, but as you'll notice, it is not striped for parking. Now, with that said, are there gonna be some people parking there illegally? Potentially, the fire marshal will warn them. Their personnel will have to keep the fire lanes clear. So if that's a fire lane, people can't be parking there. But that's, you know, it's not uncommon to have a fire access or fire turnaround. It can't go more than 50% into the buffer, but it can typically, it is allowed to push into the buffer a little bit. The buildings can't, and again, the parking lot itself typically no, but
sure. Like to point out something that, you know, might be on the obvious side and might be more of a planning process than this special use. But this is a 55-mile-an-hour road, and you know, having a driveway right off there, it can be a little dicey coming in out of that. And we're talking about 60 plus apartment buildings being put in, so don't know how many exactly tenants would be there driving in and out, plus employees or workers that do maintenance or upkeep. Some concern there of safety and busyness coming in and out of a 55.
so is that is a state route that is up to the New York State DOT. I can tell you from other projects, they have no concern about that typically. This has really good sight lines in both directions. This is not a section of the road that sees constant traffic, like when you get further north, like up near Lehigh Station Road. So I will be shocked if they have any issues with the traffic, but again, that's New York State DOT's call, not ours. But that is taken into consideration, that they when we send this out, we send a notification, and they actually have to get a driveway permit from the New York State DOT. So if New York State DOT thinks it's hazardous, they won't allow it.
Understood. Okay, didn't realize that.
Yep.
And just to reiterate on the character neighborhood, you know, the 3-story, you know, this is two-dimensional, you know, looking at this flat, you know, you're looking at 40 feet high coming out of any of your homes around this property line. That's a height that's not normal in a community around this area. So that is one of the.
I will say not too far down the road at Cantel Medical, it's that tall. And again, if you go further north, there are buildings that tall, including in Erie Station Village, including multifamily. So whereas it's not common amongst the homes, there are other areas nearby. And again, they're going to need to, when they put forth their proposal, they'll probably include some of these examples to show how their redesigned, the new look fits in there. You know, one of the things I don't know if it would be possible, you know, one of the things in terms of ceiling codes or ceiling heights, when you get to commercial properties, especially if they're sprinklered, you have to have typically greater depth on the floor to get all the stuff in there. So they may not be able to bring them down, but if there is any way to get it down to where you don't need the height permit, that would be preferable. I understand that may not be possible. I'm not saying that as a condition. I'm just saying that would, I think, greatly help address the concerns they have. I just don't know whether it's possible because, again, from a public safety standpoint, I agree they should be sprinkler buildings. And you've got to have enough space in the floor to get the sprinklers, the HVAC, you know, the electrical, everything through there. So that's typically why apartment stories are typically taller than individual homes, because individual homes don't have as much stuff in the floor.
I would agree if it was possible, in that process, John, to get that lowered and maintain your 3 stories, because I'm sure that you want the number of apartments. That would definitely help, I think, the characteristic and have it be more of a house type height than that.
Well, like I said, from a standpoint in terms of 35 foot for that average peak of the roof, that is, so essentially they'd have to lower it about 4 feet. That is what the code allows. So it's hard to say, we designed the code, so if you can't build one 35 feet. Because that's what we say that is allowed, right? They're asking for an exception. So, again, there's 2 different special use permits, and it is distinctly possible that the town board could decide to approve 24, but not 45, meaning they can build the apartment complex, they just can't be 40 feet in height. They'd have to be 35 feet in height. Now, again, keep in mind, when we say that, it's the average of the eve and the peak. So the peak of the gable does stick up, but that's true on houses too. My house, for example, tickles that 35-foot height as well.
As far as the green space and the amount of greenery that's put in here and trees, I agree that it's a good thing. I would like to, point out and question the amount of roof and blacktop. If there's a way to try to visualize the red boundary line and then actually color in the parking lot, because the roofs are colored in gray, but if you could kind of in your mind color in the parking lot area black, that's a large percent of that property.
It's actually not for multifamily. Do you have the percentage by any chance?
Haven't run the numbers yet, obviously we can get into it when I answer his question about the stormwater and
Yeah.
purview of the planning board. And I think we're going to be able to address that annually for this amount of impervious.
Yeah, and Chris, what is it, 35% requirement for multifamily? Well, for green space, this looks like, I would say this is probably over 50%.
And what's coming from that was more from the neighbors, Amy and Mo, their properties set a little lower than what ours does, but obviously concerned.
So are they to the south? You to the north out their driveway? Okay. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I can see. So looks like the crest is right about where the neighbor to the south is located. And so it's sloping down as you go north.
And it's run here toward our.
Could you introduce yourself, by the way?
Yes, Mo Zyger, 6524 West.
Okay, so and then you have it looks like a large treed area.
Yes.
Wrapping around.
Right.
So one of the things and their plan shows this, but I think we should just put it on there anyway, that I assume you don't want them to in any way disturb the trees.
Right.
That are in the buffer. So I'm just going to add that as a condition. No disturbance of existing tree line to the north.
So with all these hard surfaces that's been created, where all this runoff's gonna be going?
That's what they have to put in a large stormwater pond. That's what you see to the east side behind the 2 8 units. So they'll actually have to have storm drains, collect that water and take it to that pond.
Yeah, but the land slopes to the north.
Understand. So again, any of that, they'll have to, basically what they do is at that end of the parking lot. So they'll be regrading. So, but even if the parking lot is graded to that end, you would put a curb or a swale at that end of the parking lot. It would go into a storm pipe and go to the pond. So that's a requirement of basically on any of these, there has to be less stormwater runoff going to your property than exists today. It's not even, we don't even make them keep it the same. We make them reduce it. So because today, as it comes and flows down the grass, depending on, you know, I don't know if this area has been farmed, because typically what when a farm's been harvested, runoff is pretty bad usually off of fields when they've been harvested. But the point is, today, anything that doesn't soak in is going to run towards your property.
Right.
They've got to collect that. All of this area that they're now putting in impervious surfaces, whether it's parking lot or roofs, they've got to collect all that water and direct it to a storm water facility. So that is that much less water that's going towards your property. Obviously, anything to the north of that building and parking lot, anything in that buffer, that water, because of the hill, is still gonna sheet towards your property.
Right.
But again, that's doing that today. The difference is everything to the south of that line now
Right.
will no longer be coming towards your property.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll actually just, again, it's one of our standards, but just for, I'll call it comfort level, we'll add that as a condition, is that reduce runoff to adjacent properties. And I'm just taking notes. We'll word these better, but I just want to make sure I collect all the potential adverse impacts. But again, that is part of the that's done at site planning. They'll have to put together a site plan with the elevations. You know, this one's actually more developed than a lot of the concept plans, but this is still essentially a concept plan. It's not been engineered to deal with those elevations and such. So like you'll see when they do the site plan, you'll see the new elevation lines. Because obviously I'm not going to have that big elevation going through the building. And that's one of the things to also look at. If it's sloping back from the road, oh no, because you've got the garages on that side. I was gonna say, could you cut it into the ground a bit?
We'll look at helping.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, my house is that way. The front of the house presents 2 stories plus attic. The rear of the house, it's walkout basement, so it's actually 3 stories plus attic. What other concerns do you have?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks so much.
So if I could just bring up some other concerns that the trees, the way they're set on the property line. The current owner of the property and the building project, they put these trees in and they're young, they're growing. You know, what kind of height do they come in at? So I have a question on that, is there any kind of, are these 4-foot trees? Are these 10-foot trees? What are
Do you
they
have-
come in at?
I know it's early on, a bit early on for that, but do you have a typical?
And, evergreen trees are usually 4 to 6 feet. Deciduous are a little higher, 2 inch capital, but the town has standards that we have to adhere to that, and we'll have a very detailed landscape plan associated with the project that moves forward.
And then the other thing with the trees, they're on their property line, so, a year or 2 after, if this project went through, a year or 2 after it goes through.
We
what
can
if it's-
require that they have to maintain them.
Yeah, what if it's sold? So they agree to maintain them, but
it stays with the
Okay.
special use permit stays with the property. If they sell the property, the new owners have to adhere to the same conditions that are in the.
So a tree dies.
They'd have a certain amount of time to replace it.
Okay. All right. Then the idea of.
I'm just gonna hold on, let me just make that note, maintain vegetative buffer. So there's 3 adjacent properties that I see? Yours, right? So there's 1 to the north, 1 to the south, and yours essentially to the east. Is that correct? I don't see any other.
That sounds correct to me.
Okay, I don't see any other properties. Okay. Between adjacent properties. Okay, go ahead.
And then the idea of some kind of fence that kind of blends in, not some kind of chain link fence, but maybe split rail fence, some kind of fence being put in, would be another request. there is split rail fence that's on the backside of our property. It's on our property line.
Is that on either of those sides or is it on towards the
It's
development to the
the
northeast?
housing development.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So again, look at it, let me know, the other possibility sometimes, like, just so you know, instead of a fence, it could also be like a hedgerow type of stuff, but the point is, you want some sort of or similar structure.
Well, there's like a hedgerow on the backside of our property, between our property and the housing development. So
Right.
what those trees called?
Yeah.
Arborvitae, and they're all packed in tight together. Basically creates a fence. So
Right,
that can be
right.
done too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a fence, but it's essentially an access barrier is what you're looking for. So that people aren't wandering into your yard. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. for your
thank
time.
you. Anyone else? Coming up, Luke.
Lou Bavone, I'm one of the owners of the project. I just want no disrespect to Mr. Berardi, but months ago, Mr. Berardi approached us to buy 2 acres of the land that is in front of his home. I thought it was a great idea because he wouldn't have to look at any home, but he decided not to. A few weeks ago, Mr. Berardi notified us and asked if he could buy the whole project. We gave him a price and he decided not to. After the last meeting, Mr. Berardi approached me in the hallway and said, "We can make this all go away. All you need to do is give me $750,000 for my home and we're out." And I took it as a threat. But I want to say that we now have changed this plan to appease Mr. Berardi. And I think we're doing everything we can. We've lost one building, which is revenue. Am I correct? So I think we're trying to do everything we can.
I appreciate that, Lou. I agree. As I stated earlier, I very much like the plan that's come back. I don't want to get into the he said, she said as far as that.
No,
type
I
of stuff,
understand that.
But, in terms of, again, and I will say, we went through the same stuff with the Freemasons, right? Because again, these are in more agrarian settings, more open settings. So you're gonna see in these layouts, larger open space, a bit less density than what you're gonna see in the northern part of town. But I agree, you guys you've made a lot of good efforts to address the concerns that have been raised, so. we
Thank you.
appreciate that.
If I could just say a few more, just to go over Mr. Berardi's comments, I do appreciate him mentioning the fact that I did call him. We met with him in September out in the hallway and I said, "Here's my card, call me if you have any questions." And I did call him in November. I know you received a letter from him in December, which we didn't get. I know he doesn't want the project, but as I think you explained very eloquently, I'm here to help him. I'm the guy that draws the trees. I'm the guy that draws the fences. I'm the one that tells me what you want. And I will continue if we're fortunate enough to get to the planning level to speak with Mr. Berardi. But at this point, he really kind of has left us out of the discussions. And I think out of the several comments that he had, I think we all know they're all planning comments, and I'll work with him on those.
Right.
Let's talk about the height a little bit. We'll work with the height, and it's a concern that you mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, before the public hearing. And I think the style of a barn and things like that could work. And I think the barn idea, I know the barns are higher than 40 feet if they're in the area, so that's, or a silo. So, we'll get there. He kind of stumped me a little bit on the question of a ranch. When I think of a ranch, it's single floor living, but I didn't know the height off the top of my head, but I think we were looking at vaulted ceilings, things like that.
Right.
Might be more aesthetically pleasing. So I didn't want to get pinned down to a height of the building.
Yeah, no, and again, there are also raised ranch. There's a whole lot of different ranch styles. So yeah, I get it.
So again, if we're fortunate to get through this process with you folks and have the ability to go to the planning board, I will continue to work with Mr. Berardi as he allows me to, hopefully have a better dialogue in the future. And I think we can take this project to another level. And I think any of the concerns that were raised can be addressed. And also to a point of Mr. Bavone, I know most people in this room know him. He's known for his style and his creativity. And I think that if we have to go to an agricultural style, I mean, this a lot of the elements with these dormers and these peaks are elements that
They are.
Lou likes. If you look at his house, that's what it looks
Right.
like. So, softening that, a gable roof, we'll work towards that,
Yeah.
So I think all the comments that were given are good and healthy, and I look forward to moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, again, I can, but I'm not the applicant, so you're gonna have to do it, but I know there's a bunch of homes on West Henrietta Road, from here all the way, like I said, down to Lakeville that have a similar look, but I don't know how to put it. It's a subtle difference in terms of it looks more agrarian than, and so a lot
I
of
know,
it
right
is-
where you're, yeah.
It's the
Erie
it's the-
stations are perfect.
Right, it's the choice
you
of
know.
material, building materials and that stuff, but like I said, those stacked porches and columns, that was very common in farmhouses all through town. In fact, I was just looking at the bicentennial, and we were also out in some other. I will tell you, I love the old farmhouse architecture. We were down in Owego. There are just some gorgeous farmhouses. Lima is another example. When you get into the village area, some of these old farmhouses, they're just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do and still match that style. So
Yeah.
I have full faith in it's Mr. Fahey, right?
This is Fahey, and he'll be
Fahey.
involved in that as well.
Fahey Design, yeah.
Correct.
So I have full faith in his ability to give that a agrarian look without, again, the layout probably doesn't have to change much, just the materials, the look. I think that's very doable.
I think the layout itself satisfies a lot of the goals that the neighbors addressed. We push things in. We have a lot of green space. Looking forward to presenting full SWIP to Mr. Martin in the engineering review. And I think those are going to be readily available. Everything, drains to that pond.
Right, like I
Yeah.
said, I think you heard the list of stuff. None of it, you don't see any of it as.
I'm right with
as
you.
a
I got
red
the same work.
flag. Yeah. So the other thing I will note too is, one of a big push from the governor and from the legislator is additional housing, right? The state is facing a housing crunch. It's driving the market crazy. It's not the only thing that's doing it, but the median house in Henrietta in 2019 was about 145, between 145 and 150. This past summer, it was over 275. So it's nearly doubled in 4 years. And a lot of that has to do with available inventory. Whereas people talk about all the people moving out of New York, they're moving in here. We have grown tremendously and there is a demand for housing. So having some nice options available, especially as seniors look to downsize and move to apartments, that is an important, again, that's one of the things that the governor is looking for. And it's projects like these that we're hoping will convince her to help us with our power issue. For those who haven't heard, RG&E has run out of available power in the western part of Henrietta. And they were talking a 3 to 4 year short-term solution. Well, we lit into them. We being myself and County Executive Adam Bello, we've been working with Albany to get that resolved, hopefully in 2024. But one of the things that's a big push, if you add up all these projects together, there are 1,000 new homes or apartment units coming to Henrietta, including a large number for seniors and including a large number of affordable units as well. We love the economic diversity that we have in this town. And so being able to support that, we want to see that continue to go forward. And we do think projects like these do help that. So again, we're appreciative of the work Mr. Bavone does in town, and we'll but like I said, in terms of we'll continue to work on this. You've got time. Our next meeting is actually January 2nd. That's the first part of the meeting is our organizational meeting, but we actually have a full meeting after that. And then after that, it is the let's see, so that would be the 24th, January 24th. So if you want to decide which one you want to come back on, just let us know.
Yeah.
But my plan is to keep the public hearing open. If you're not going to be, if you don't, because of the holidays, if the 2nd is too soon, and you know that now, we can push for the 24th. You don't have to let me know just now. If you do know the answer now, great. If you don't.
Well,
just let me know.
I can't speak for Mr. Fahey's schedule, but I think it must be being practical to get a new kind of rendering. And I think that's what we really want to talk about. I think the
Correct,
site
yeah.
plan stands alone. I'd assume the 24th, but I can let you know,
Okay.
if that's different. But if you put us on with the 24th,
Sounds good.
that'd be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for all your time and happy holidays.
Thank you, you too. Okay, so I'm not going to close the public hearing, but I'm going to close this session of the public hearing for special use permit application numbers 2023-024 and 045. That concludes our public hearings. Can I get my next resolution? Oh, it's mine. Thank you. Why I keep these guys around? I'm just kidding. That's why they keep me around, hopefully. Okay. Fellow board members, I have resolution 26 dash. Make sure I'm reading the right one. There we go. I was one ahead. Dash 431, 2023 to adopt local law number 14 of 2023 to amend the town of Henrietta code regarding solar energy systems.
Seconded.
So obviously we had a public hearing on this, but is there anyone who wishes to offer any additional comments before we call for a vote? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-432, 2023 to grant special use permit application number 2023-042 for Tobin Henrietta Solar LLC.
Second.
So as I mentioned, there are 21 conditions. I'm not gonna lengthen this already long meeting by reading them all. I know you guys are all aware of them. But they do address the concerns that were brought forward by the residents, as well as concerns brought forward by the county, state and federal wetlands, farmland, and then all of the stuff specific to town with regards to the pilot program, the how the solar panels are installed, the pollinators underneath, decommissioning plant, whole 9 yards. So any further comments? Again, we just completed the public hearing on this, but does anyone have any additional comments?
I just would like to confirm that the farmland is, there's the process is in place for that farmland to be secured. Is that here in the, which number is this?
It's number 8.
Thank you.
Comprising 55.78 acres of active farmland. So that easement or deed restriction, it must in accordance, in a form accordance, or excuse me, acceptable to the town attorney, shall be filed in the Monroe County Clerk's office prior to the issuing of a building permit. So they have to have that agricultural easement in place prior. I don't know if we already have shared the previous one we had done, but if you need a template, we can send you that one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? And hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 26-433, 2023 to approve and or ratify the following agreements. Seconded.
I'll note the interpreters are all on this resolution, so we better approve it. Any comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Before we go to the next one, I just want to know, there was Last May, we had, it's not related to you, sorry. It's for the agreements. Last May, we had gone out and gotten quotes for a phase one environmental site assessment for the new clubhouse. Then the deal fell through. We called back, the lowest bidder was willing to honor that price, so and he can have it done by January 8th, which is when our objection should be filed, just in case there's, you know, yeah, a really big problem. I'll say like a Love Canal type problem. It doesn't have to be quite that bad, but you know, we do expect there to be some cleanup issues because of storage of fuel oils, but I don't think there's going to be anything massive, but we would like to know that before we go to closing on the property. So
Okay.
it's only $1,800, so it's not a big expense, but it was added. When I got the note back from the real estate attorney saying you have until January 8th, we reached out to Labella, said, will you honor this price? And can you get it done by January 8th? And they said, yes. So,
Okay, great.
okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-434-2023 to authorize bills payable and any associated contracts or agreements for December 12th, 2023 through today, December 20th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion?
It was a lot less than last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-435/2023 to authorize the supervisor to execute and approve the second lease schedule with Rock Leasing LLC under the energy performance contract for the RG&E streetlight conversion.
Second. So I'll share with you guys the Centrica has been putting all the streetlights into GIS system mapping. So you can see all the red dots. You can see where the concentration of the lights are. You can pretty much identify any Bernie Iacovangelo projects because he likes to put in all the streetlights. One of the things we've been doing, we've been getting some complaints about out street lights. You know, RG&E is about to sell them. So what we've been telling, when people notify us that the street light's been out, they're going to be prioritized by Centrica as being some of the first ones replaced. So they've been recording that in the GIS system, but I'll share you with that map he just sent me because it's kind of neat to look at. So, you know, we'll be able to, when we get a call, most people don't go out and read the number off the pole. They say, you know, it's in front of my house or it's in front of my neighbor's house, but we'll be able to go to the GIS system, pull that up, look at the map, click on it, get the information of what's in there, go and replace it. So
Great. That's great.
any further comments or questions? One other thing I did mention, we did reach out to our bond counsel to see whether this was considered a material event under the laws that were in place when we took out our bond. It is not. But just so people don't think we're hiding the fact that we're entering, you know, we have a obligation under a lease. We will be including it as part of our annual disclosure. So, but we are not going to file a material event because that's costly. And then every time we do an additional lease, we would have to file another one and another one, whereas it makes much more sense because what's not on here, they're a little bit further behind is the national grid. Now it's only a dozen poles maybe, so it's not a big deal, but like I said, that'll just be part of our annual disclosure. So, okay. Now, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 26-436, 2023. Call for a public hearing regarding the establishment of extension number 173 to Henrietta Water District number 1 for the Masonic Care Community.
Seconded.
One of the things I'll note, this is one of the projects that is currently being held up some because of available power. Pump station is in, not energized. So like I said, I've been in 4 meetings in the past week plus, trying to get this resolved. So, we'll see where it goes.
And can I make a comment?
Sure.
I had a conversation with someone who was in one of those meetings you were in, and they were extremely grateful for how you handled it and how you dealt with them. So they wanted me to extend their appreciation.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, the CEO thanked me for being blunt. As you guys know, I don't have any problem expressing my opinions, so. Really? Yeah.
Get it done.
Any further comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-437, 2023, to authorize advertisement of bids for the components needed to install phase 2 of the irrigation system for the Riverton Municipal Golf Course.
Second.
So looks very similar to the phase 1 bid. The components are different. So I'll be getting that over to the clerks tonight so that they can put the package together. Because I know there are some respondents eagerly waiting for the bids to be available. If it weren't for the holidays, we probably would have done it at the very next meeting, but with 2 major holidays in between, we just thought it wasn't fair to, so it won't. We'll basically have it for the meeting on the 24th. Any further comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 26-438, 2023, to award the permitting code and plan review software solution bid to Cloud Permit Software, subject to conditions.
Seconded.
So I'll note they did come down. I think it was about $3,000 from our bid prior. So the bid process saved us some money. Any further comments, questions? I, for one, am anxious to see this new system because the old system is lacking some key features. In addition, when we had a meeting with a number of other departments there and looking at, like, there's a lot of good possibilities for engineering and planning to use this with regards to site plans and stuff like that, as well as construction to be able to use it to track punch lists, things like that. I'm excited to see what can be done with this new software. So anything else? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-439, 2023, to authorize the purchase of an elevator kit for a Rover X camera system.
Second.
Any discussion? For those who don't know, an elevator kit, it just lifts the camera up so it can see over the surface of the deeper water. Seeing no further comments, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution number 26-440/2023 to declare items surplus materials from the Highway Department.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 26-441, 2023 to respond. The Office of Cannabis Management regarding a cannabis license application.
Seconded.
I always find it funny when I'm putting forth a motion to ratify my own actions, but
Yeah.
it just gets, it goes on a rotating basis, just how it ends up. It does feel funny. Any further comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 26-442, 2023, to authorize the supervisor to accept the quotes from Mengel, Metzger, Bar and Company LLP, the 2023 town audits.
Second.
Any comments, questions, discussion?
I was just, I've worked with Mengel, Metzger and Bar. They do the school district as well, and they know they've been doing a great job for the town for a number of years. I was just wondering if this is one of those things that ever goes out to bid, to consider other audit agencies from time to time.
We can look, one of the things with audit stuff, a lot of it has to do with institutional history.
I know this is something that we talk about.
Right.
We've talked about a number of times with the school district as well. Sometimes given the special circumstances,
Right.
like the ARPA funds and stuff like that, it does particularly help.
Yeah.
Um,
So I will note that we didn't used to be with Mengel, Metzger and Bar. We were with an individual contractor who then got acquired by Mengel, Metzger and Bar. And so that's how we ended up with them.
mhm.
But,
They always do an excellent job, but this is not anything, in any way impinging on
Right.
their work. It's just that I was wondering whether, we ever refresh to get a fresh pair of eyes in terms of the audit.
Yeah, we can discuss that, but like I said, and I know this too from when I was in industry. You're stuck with a firm unless there were issues with that firm.
Right.
Because again, the amount of work that then takes to get the new firm up to speed on all of that institutional history, that's a challenge. But I also understand, like I said, we did that with our architects more recently. We've done that with some of our other professional services. It's just, well, I'll talk it over with the finance director, but like I said, based off my experience, that's typically not common, just because again, that institutional history is important.
Yeah, I have heard arguments in both directions in terms of audit organizations, that some places do prefer to change up for, it's just to have a fresh pair of eyes and everything. I know the school district, we've had this conversation several times, and I've always been of the opinion to stay with this particular company and continue to because of what you said, and particularly with the school district, because it is there's a lot of complexities there. With the town, I'm just putting it out there as a potential
Sure.
consideration.
Like I said, I'll obviously not for 2024.
Correct.
Looking at the 2023 audits, but we can talk about it going forward.
Mhm.
Any further comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 26-443, 2023 to make appropriate budget transfers and adjustments to the 2023 adopted budget.
Seconded.
So obviously, we've done, taken on some projects that originally weren't part of the original budget for this year. And some projects were there, but we expanded them, the ball fields being a perfect example where we were redoing the lights and it didn't make sense to us that if we're going to be tearing up the fields, now was the perfect time to fix the fields up. But that was more than we had originally anticipated. There were additional revenues. So we did have some, but one of the things as we noted going forward, we always apply a healthy portion of the fund balance to the following year to keep the revenues down. So a lot of people will look at and say, well, if you look at the numbers, and I should make a comment, it's not exactly related to this, but unfortunately, when I did the newsletter, that somehow I had lost a change I had done in the portion on the budget. It will be updated on the newsletter that's on the website. But the graph that shows the ending balances is actually from the previous year. I don't know how the changes got lost. I had updated it, and then unfortunately, no one spotted it until it was already at the press. So the good news is that's part of those are estimated numbers. So in the next issue, as part of the state of the town, we do include all the updates with actual numbers, so they'll be updated. But anyway, if you look at that, we were $3 million over in revenue. So we got $3 million more revenues than we budgeted, and everyone's like, oh, well, you should, why did you then have to raise taxes to put in the spray park? Well, one of the things is like this year we applied, I think it was 5.3 million of fund balance. So even with that 3 million excess, when you take the other fund balance, we're right at the edge of the limit that we want to keep our healthy fund balance at in order to, you want to have a good reserve in case there is a downturn. We've always, since I've been supervisor, and all the boards we've served with have agreed on this approach. Some towns up their revenue numbers, looking at growth and try to project out and say, okay, I'm going to see this bunch of growth. The danger of that is exactly what happened during the pandemic. Revenues dropped. There were shortfalls. They had to slash and cut projects. We didn't, because we don't rely on this big growth. What happens then when the growth does come in, it essentially ends up as windfall, and we can use it to apply to the next year's budget to keep the tax increases, keep the tax levies, well, for 5 years now, flat. The auditors typically note that, but they understand and they don't argue with that. The thing that does is it gives us essentially a year, so that if you have a year like what happened with COVID, that following year, we dialed the budget back a little because we knew we weren't going to have as much to put forth to keep the taxes down. It gives you a year buffer, whereas if you play it the way other towns do, you don't have that. And if you have a down year, now you potentially have to downsize, or you have, and a lot of times these dips are 1 year in the making. So I'm a big proponent of continuing to do the way we do, but like I said, from an optics standpoint, people see, well, you were 3 million extra revenue and you were, a couple $100,000 under in expenses. So why are we raising taxes? That's why, because we put a lot of previous fund balance to keep it down. And of course, as the town's grown, the amount we've had to apply has grown and grown and grown. And so we're kind of we're at that edge, which goes back to why, in addition to the money to build the spray park, there was also $100,000 raise to add to the library budget, because we don't have those big fund balances available. And because unfortunately, whereas the library expenses have increased just like every other, the state aid has not. And so we're not only picking up the increases on the portion that our taxes have always covered, we're also picking up the increases on the portions that in the past state aid has covered. So that's why the library tends to balloon a bit more than some of the other ones. So just wanted to let people understand where all this is coming from and how it works. And thankfully, we have a phenomenal finance director who keeps all this in the air, and probably on a, if not daily basis, every other day reminds me You've got no room. Don't go spending stuff you don't have this coming year. You got no room. We had some room last year. We don't have room this year going forward. So if we get some windfall revenues, maybe that'll change. And I can hear Linda already scolding me for even just thinking that. So
So can you drive?
that's right. Okay. With all that said, not all of it necessarily related to this, but close. Any further comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have the last resolution, number 26-444, 2023, to hire personnel and make the attached changes.
Second.
We should have had Millie second it. Dang it.
I know. I did second hers.
Any comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Do we have any additional discussion items or comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none. Do we have any board reports or miscellaneous reports, committee or miscellaneous reports from the board?
Library, just a reminder that it's going to be closed December 25th and 26th, and that it will also be closed January 1st. An additional reminder that if you have little ones, Saturday, December 3rd at the library between 11:30 and 12:30 is the Year's Eve party. It's a blast. So take your kids and go. It's really fun and special. Library always does a great job on that. And that's it.
So as I mentioned, the newsletter is out at the printers. It's even possible it's gotten to mailboxes by now, since it went to the printer over a week ago. Anything else? I don't remember the executive session.
Is there an executive session? Yeah, it says it.
Listed here. Is that truly on here, or was that a leftover?
I didn't have it on mine.
I think it might have been a leftover, actually.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I know I saw it and I was like, executive.
This is the first I saw it when I reviewed the agenda. I had looked at all the stuff on the front and the resolutions. I never, because it pushed to the back page.
I know it was weird
I
where
did-
it was.
It's because we put these ones in here.
Ah, I didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
so,
Usually we have it at the end.
so we are not gonna have an executive session. That was from last meeting.
Okay.
So what's that?
That's a gift.
That's right. So with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? You guys want to do honors?
Yeah.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow down board members, I make a motion to adjourn the final town board meeting of 2023.
Seconded.
Hearing no objection.